up here with me as well. I've also been dealing with this suspect's behavior over the last week. We believe that this investigation is over at this point, and we'll just need to move on from here. The deputy sheriffs who responded to this active shooting scene yesterday are absolutely true heroes. There were rounds being fired, as you saw on some of the news coverage. It was absolutely incredible. It was like a war zone, and our deputies continued to go in to that area and try to neutralize and stop the threat. The rounds kept coming, but the deputies didn't give up. Our deputy sheriffs are some true heroes. They're highly trained, and I will tell you that I'm proud to be a member of this department, and our deputy sheriffs did a great job yesterday. Thank you. Any questions?
Will you take questions now, Chief?
Yes.
Can you confirm? Question really. Can you confirm is Mr. Gordon?
I cannot absolutely positively confirm it's him. The suspect that we were working on trying to confirm the identity through forensics, and we should know that at some point here soon.
Sheriff, there are lots of questions about how the fire started at the cabin. Was that was on purpose by the sheriff's department or Senator Blaney? That was something that happened as a result of the tear gas that was fired in there. Can you explain how that transpired? What happened?
I can tell you that it was not on purpose. We did not intentionally burn down that cabin to get Mr. Dorner out. The tear gas canisters that we used, first off, we used a presence when we showed up. Secondly, we used a cold tear gas. Then we used the next tear gas was that was pyrotechnic. It does generate a lot of heat. We introduced those canisters into the residence and the fire erupted.
There was some chatter that was caught, I guess, on the scanners and everything about a burner, and I don't know what that is. Can you explain what the burner is?
The pyrotechnic type canisters are commonly referred to as burners.
Sure. The entire time during this man hunt, back up to your command post, and once this particular cabin is searched, the extensive search that your deputies, law enforcement, have been back for the past several days.
I'm going to ask Chief Kovinsky, who is heading up the door-to-door search in Bigger, to answer that question for you.
Good afternoon. During the initial phases of this investigation on Thursday, after his vehicle was found, Dorner's vehicle was found, we did an extensive search of that area. About 80% of the cabins in that area are part-time cabins. We went to each cabin. If there were no signs of break-in or no open doors, we then noted it and moved on to the next cabin. Any other questions?
Do you know if any of your deputies knocked on the door of that cabin or attempted to contact the residents inside?
All those cabins in that particular area, we sent teams of deputies out to check to see if there was any entry and if we could make contact.
Is there any doubt about what happened that morning? There's lots of questions about whether he was in that condo for days, hours. If you know that, number one. And what happened to the people that were in there before he stole the first off?
I don't believe that there were anybody in there on Thursday. At the start of the investigation, we don't believe that there was anybody in that cabin. That is somebody that either a rental or the owner.
Was any, did you guys find weapons in either the burned out cabin or the one that he had been staying in? Any sort of personal belongings that have linked in order? Can you talk about that?
You know what, some of these things are still preliminary, and as the investigation moves forward, we'll have more information regarding those
Were
things.
personal belongings found, though, in that cabin with him?
As I said, some of that information will become available at the conclusion of the investigation. We're still... I would imagine that it could have been Thursday, but I'm telling you, at the time, there was nobody renting that cabin.
Did you find any forced entry in that cabin?
We did not find any forced entry.
Do you believe that he picked that cabin because it's close to where the station was, to where the press conferences were happening? Do you believe he was planning another attack or the shootout just happened because he got scared?
You know, at this point, it's going to be speculative, and we'll comment on that later as the investigation.
No one ever knocked on their door. People who lived there, That cabin was a vacation rental. The people who were cleaning it to rent it out this weekend just surprised Mr. Dorner there. It doesn't sound like you guys were there, and completely cleared that area.
I can tell you that the cabin in question had not been rented out since February 6th. And as I said, there was an extensive search in that area of the cabins. Okay, thank you.
Please understand that there is an ongoing investigation, and many of your questions will be answered at a later date. So we're not going to be taking any further questions at this point. Please understand that the PILs will be summarizing statements made by this department during this press conference, and we'll be posting an update to the department website, as well as sending updates via email. I'd like to thank you all for coming to our press conference. Thank you once again. That concludes the press conference for today.
Was there any offer for Mr. Dorner to surrender?
Did anybody speak to whether he actually had any tactical abilities that he bragged about?
I've been listening in to authorities from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department there, speaking with reporters, taking questions during a news conference. They still are not positively identifying the remains of what authorities do believe to be that of Christopher Dorner. In the meantime, they have identified the body of a sheriff deputy who did not make it out of the firefight. He has been identified as 35-year-old Detective Jeremiah McKay of the San Bernardino Police Department. We're looking at a picture of him right there. McKay joined the department in 1998. He is survived by his wife and his 2 children. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz in the MSNBC Newsroom. Now, back to Hardball.
In the short time that I've been here in Washington, nothing has frustrated me more than false choices like the one the president laid out tonight.
Well, welcome back to Hardball. By any measure, Marco Rubio's Watergate moment, it's being called, was an awkward one for both him and many in the Republican Party who see him as the GOP's savior. But a much greater consequence, of course, may be something far more awkward. The party's ham-handed effort to reposition itself as a kinder, gentler Republican Party these days. Let's start with the content of Rubio's speech. Instead of a new page for Republicans, it was more or less a throwback last night. I called it a Yaffer speech, Young Americans for Freedom speech from the old days, the kind of Bill Buckley-inspired conservative youth speech which we heard back in the 1960s. Let's watch it.
Presidents in both parties, from John F. Kennedy to Ronald Reagan, have known that our free enterprise economy is the source of our middle-class prosperity. But President Obama, he believes it's the cause of our problems.
Well, that, of course, is nonsense. I don't think Obama's ever attacked the free enterprise system, but Rubio wasn't alone last night. A little earlier in the day, freshman Senator Ted Cruz of Texas put on an ugly performance when he questioned the source of Defense Secretary nominee Chuck Hagel's money.
I will point out that right now this committee knows absolutely nothing about the personal compensation Chuck Hagel received in 2008, in 2009, or 2010. We do not know, for example, if he received compensation for giving paid speeches at extreme or radical groups.
Well, Cruz's attacks were so over the line that even John McCain, who had lambasted Hagel himself a week ago, came to the senator's defense.
Senator Hagel is an honorable man. He has served his country, and no one on this committee in any time should impugn his character or his integrity.
Unfortunately, that's what Cruz was doing, and House Speaker John Boehner couldn't stick to the script today for the repositioned, softer, gentler, kinder GOP. He told reporters at a breakfast briefing that Obama doesn't have, this is the new phrase, he doesn't have the guts to cut spending. And today, more Republican intransigents, Senate Republicans, are holding up the Hagel nomination again by demanding the Speaker, actually the Democratic leader Harry Reid from Nevada, come up with 60 votes to move forward with a vote. And Senator Rand Paul put a hold on President Obama's nominee to lead the CIA, John Brennan. So a lot of obstructionism out there. Joining me right now is Salon's Joan Walsh from the Washington Post, Dana Milbank. Joan, it's there again. They can't beat these people, so they're doing this sort of skirmishing and obstructing. They're trying to smear this guy. They know he's going to be Secretary of Defense. There is absolutely no purpose in what Cruz is doing except pandering to the neocons here, trying to prove that he's more obnoxious than they are. And they know he's in. They're just messing around here with the government of the United States, I think.
They're messing around in a particularly ugly way. I mean, Ted Cruz, this is ugly stuff, Chris. And he's, the good news for Marco Rubio is he makes Marco Rubio look like a real statesman. And John McCain, God bless him, is rising to the occasion. And I haven't had many nice things to say about John McCain in the last few years. But it really is separating out the attack dogs and the really vicious people from the people who are merely obstructionists. But anyway, Marco Rubio missed a big moment last night. And I think it comes down, it's not about the drink of water. It comes down to the fact that they do not understand that this new Democratic electorate, Latinos, women, African Americans, Asians, young people, they like government. They really believe that government has a role in their lives. And they also know something that white voters have forgotten, and that is that government created the middle class the first time around, only they mainly did it for white men, basically. And we can do it again for this next America. They get that. And Marco Rubio looks different, has a different name, says nice things about government, but it's the same old warmed-over Yaffer or Tea Party.
Yeah, that's right. Let's get this. That's my point, Joan. It's not like he said anything new. He just said, hey, I'm a Latino. I can talk.
They're saying that the problem is not what he was putting up to his lips. The problem is what was coming out of it. And if anything, this whole hullabaloo about whether he has...
Okay, you brought your water with you. You brought your prop with you. Explain that. First of all, last night, guys, first time I've seen speeches described as boring, pathetic, too much. I've never heard a speech maker described as parched. I mean, his thirst. What's his crowning?
You could see there were warning signs early, wiping the sweat,
Picasso, get it.
lips. You
Picasso.
could see that was heading for a crisis, and in fact it happened. But I don't think that's a problem for Marco Rubio. In fact, we're talking about water instead of the fact that he gave this...
Why was he so nervous last night? And he was so good at places like the convention. He's given some pretty good speeches. Well, he didn't seem sweaty at all.
Time magazine calls him the savior of the Republican Party. He's got all this pressure on him. All these eyes are on him. Right. You know what? He did. He read the boilerplate script. The reason he's attractive is not just because of his background, but because he's offering something new in terms of a new Republican immigration policy. He gave that the most passing of references last
night. He's for immigration from I can tell. What's he for? The second-class deal?
No. He's actually now suggesting there should be a path to legalization. He was out there agreeing with Chuck Schumer. He's behind this deal, but he's afraid to say it to his own base, to his own people, right?
Let's go over this whole pattern. The Republicans obviously are trying to, since you lose an election, you try to fix the place up a little bit. You try to offer yourself, make yourself a little more cosmetically pleasing. But look at the way it's been here. Rubio, Cruz with that nastiness again today. Boehner, this sort of chicken salad look at the $9 an hour minimum wage. Don't the Republicans know they're stepping right back into the bear trap when they say, we don't even want to pay a guy $9 an hour, a woman $9 an hour. We're not going to pay them $360 a week if they work a full week. We're not going to give them $18,000 a year. That's too much money for us. We're not going to give a person $18,000 a year, may have a family to support. It puts them right back in the trap where Mitt Romney was caught trashing the 47%. Right back in there. They walked into it.
But they're not getting that because they live in a world of an echo chamber, whether it's Fox News.
They love that rope, man. No. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. That rope gonna be our savior.
It's just taken for granted, and where they peddle the same.
I put some peanut butter on that bone.
Whether it's about climate change or whether it's about the minimum wage, and they don't really ever step out into a world where they're really challenged. I think the other thing, to go back to Rubio and what Dana said, is that people in the media, not us, but bear some responsibility for creating this.
So I was working with that bone trying to find out what's inside it.
When he's really offering nothing but a 21st century name for 19th century policy. And it's like the soft
Are you expressing personal guilt for the fact that Time Magazine called him the Republican savior?
I don't work there, and I've never.
Hey, I don't think so. I wouldn't put him on the cover, never.
I've got Catholic guilt, but it doesn't go that far, Chris. No, I don't accept any guilt. It's not fair to him. He didn't deserve it.